Hello, welcome to my channel, Leah Decodes. She doesn't wake up one day and stop caring. Interest fades quietly, and before she leaves, she tests you. I'm speaking to you as someone who's seen this pattern repeat across countless relationships. When a woman starts losing interest, she rarely announces it. She observes, she measures, she places small weights on the connection and watches whether you still carry them with strength or drop them with resentment. These tests are not games in her mind. They are survival checks. And the first one begins with emotional withdrawal. She becomes less expressive, shorter replies, fewer questions, less warmth in her voice. This is not indifference yet. It is an invitation for you to reveal who you really are. When reassurance disappears, she is watching to see if you panic, chase, interrogate, or collapse into insecurity. If your sense of worth depends on her attention, it leaks out. Now, many men fail here by over-explaining, over-exting, or demanding clarity. To her, that feels heavy, not loving. What she is actually looking for is emotional steadiness. Can you remain grounded when the emotional weather changes? Can you stay present without begging for validation? A man who can hold silence without resentment communicates confidence without words. A man who melts down communicates risk. The second layer of this test hides inside conflict. She brings up something small from the past, a comment you made, a moment you forgot. She is not hunting for an apology alone. She is measuring accountability versus defensiveness. Do you listen or do you lawyer your way out? Do you validate her experience or do you minimize it to protect your ego? When interest is high, flaws feel human. When interest drops, flaws feel dangerous. If you react with irritation, sarcasm, or withdrawal, she learns that discomfort makes you unsafe to communicate with. If you stay calm, take responsibility without self-flagellation, and keep your dignity, you rebuild attraction quietly. Masculine strength here is not dominance. It is emotional containment. There is another detail most men miss. During this phase, she watches how you live when she is not watching. Your routines, your ambition, your discipline. Losing interest often begins when a man stops moving forward and starts orbiting her approval. When your world shrinks, attraction suffocates. She tests this by stepping back and seeing whether your life still stands. If everything about you pauses when she pulls away, she feels pressure. If you continue to build, train, learn, and lead yourself, curiosity returns. Attraction is not maintained by persuasion. It is sustained by presence, purpose, and self-respect. Understand this clearly. These tests are not punishments. They are unconscious evaluations. She is asking one question beneath all of them. Is this man still someone I can admire when things are uncertain? Answer that question with your behavior, not your words. Here is the quiet truth most never hear. Attraction responds to polarity, not pleading. When you regulate yourself, you regulate the relationship. When you outsource your peace, you tax the bond. She senses this instinctively. The steadier you become, the safer she feels to lean back in. This is not about tricks. It is about maturity under pressure. Slow your reactions, sharpen your standards, invest energy where it compounds. Let uncertainty refine you rather than erode you. If she returns, it will be because she recognizes strength that does not demand applause. If she leaves, you still win because you did not abandon yourself to keep someone else. This perspective protects your future, your confidence, and your direction, regardless of outcomes, timing, or anyone else's shifting emotions today and tomorrow, always. The third test begins when she challenges your boundaries without openly saying so. It might look harmless, a last-minute cancellation, a dismissive joke at your expense, a subtle comparison to another man. On the surface, it feels small. Underneath, it is diagnostic. She is checking whether you respect yourself enough to respond with calm firmness, or whether you trade self-respect for access. Many men confuse tolerance with strength. They let things slide to keep the peace, believing patience will be rewarded. What she actually feels is imbalance. When a man does not protect his standards, he teaches her that his needs are flexible and his spine is negotiable. Attraction doesn't grow in that environment. It leaks out. The response she's measuring is not aggression or sulking, it's clarity. A grounded man doesn't overreact, but he doesn't disappear either. He names what doesn't work for him without drama. He doesn't threaten to leave, yet he's not afraid of losing someone who consistently crosses his line. That emotional posture signals value. It tells her you choose her, but you don't need her to choose yourself. The fourth test is subtler and often misread. She starts sharing attention with the world, more social plans, more phone time, new interests. She doesn't automatically include you in. This is not always disloyalty. It is a pressure test for possessiveness versus confidence. She's watching whether you become controlling, suspicious, or competitive with her freedom. Insecurity tries to reclaim closeness by force. Confidence allows space without fear. When you interrogate, track, or guilt trip, you shrink in her eyes. When you support her autonomy while maintaining your own direction, you expand. The paradox is brutal, but real. The less you clutch, the more attractive you become. The more you hover, the faster interest dissolves. Here's where many men lose themselves. They start performing, changing opinions, adjusting humor, becoming agreeable to avoid friction. She notices. Women are highly sensitive to incongruence. When your words no longer align with your internal compass, trust erodes. She begins to feel like she's with a reflection instead of a man. This is a test of authenticity under threat. Can you remain you when approval is uncertain? Can you hold your preferences without forcing them? Can you disagree without hostility? Authenticity creates friction, but it also creates respect. Without respect, desire cannot survive. The fifth test hides inside vulnerability. She shares a fear, a doubt, or a story from her past. She is not asking you to fix it. She is watching how you hold emotional weight. Do you rush to solutions to feel useful? Do you dismiss it to avoid discomfort? Or do you listen fully, steady, and present without making it about you? This is where emotional leadership appears, not in dominance, but in depth. When you can sit with complexity without collapsing or controlling, you become someone she can trust with her inner world. When you make her emotions your responsibility, you become another burden she has to manage. There is a pattern tying all these tests together. They are not about her power over you. They are about your relationship with yourself. Every reaction you choose reveals whether you are driven by fear or grounded in self-respect. Fear seeks certainty. Self-respect tolerates ambiguity. Understand this. A woman losing interest is not an enemy. She is responding to shifts in energy, direction, and presence. When you anchor yourself internally, externally, things often realign. And even if they don't, you emerge intact. The men who pass these tests are not perfect. They are regulated. They don't chase signals. They respond to reality. They don't negotiate attraction. They embody it through consistency, boundaries, and purpose. That is what stabilizes desire. When emotions fluctuate, that is what turns tests into turning points instead of endings. There's a deeper test that only appears when she is seriously considering letting go. This one is quiet, and it catches even strong men off guard. She stops initiating future plans. No talk about next month. No casual we should statements. The timeline dissolves. What she's observing now is not romance, but leadership. Can you hold vision without forcing commitment? Men who sense this gap often rush to lock things down. They ask where this is going. They push labels. They seek guarantees to soothe their anxiety. From her perspective, this feels like pressure, not partnership. It communicates fear of loss rather than confidence in direction. The man she's drawn to is not the one who begs the future to stay. It's the one who continues walking forward, whether she's beside him or not. Leadership here doesn't mean dominance, it means direction. You still plan your life, or you still make decisions. You still invite her into moments without attaching your worth to her answer. When you say, I'm doing this, you're welcome to join. Instead of, what do you want to do? Polarity returns. Desire breathes again. Another test appears in how she reacts to your success or self-improvement. When you start focusing on your body, career, or mindset, she watches closely. If she's losing interest, this can trigger two opposite reactions. She may pull back further, or she may lean in unexpectedly. What she's testing is whether your growth is real or performative. If you improve yourself to get her back, it shows your energy becomes outcome dependent. If you improve yourself because it's who you are becoming, it's undeniable. One is needy ambition, the other is grounded momentum. Women are instinctively drawn to men who are evolving without needing applause. She may subtly downplay your wins or tease your efforts. This isn't sabotage, it's verification. Can you stay centered without validation? Can you enjoy your progress without rubbing it in or shrinking to keep her comfortable? Men who abandon growth to preserve connection lose both. Men who keep growing respectfully often regain attraction, or they outgrow the situation entirely. There is also a test around emotional availability. As interest fades, she may open up less, then suddenly share something personal again. This push and pull reveals how you regulate closeness. If you overinvest emotionally when she opens up, you overwhelm the moment. If you detach completely, you signal disinterest or punishment. The balance is presence without attachment. You are there engaged, listening, but not clinging. You don't treat vulnerability as a contract. You treat it as a moment. This tells her you can connect deeply without losing yourself. That's rare. And rarity is attractive. Pay attention to how she responds to your absence. Not disappearing as a tactic, but genuinely being occupied with your own life. When you're not instantly available, does she lean in or fade further? This is not a game, it's data. It reveals whether attraction still exists beneath the uncertainty. Here is the truth most men resist. You cannot negotiate desire back into existence. You can only remove the conditions that suffocate it. That means releasing the need to control outcomes. It means choosing dignity over desperation. It means allowing space without resentment. When a woman is losing interest, she is subconsciously asking one final question. Is this man emotionally self-sustaining? Can he stand alone without bitterness? Can he invite me into his life without needing me to complete it? Men who fail here collapse inward or lash outward. Men who pass remain steady. They don't perform masculinity. They embody it through calm, direction, and emotional economy. Even if she leaves, this test refines you. You learn that attraction is not earned by effort alone. It is inspired by alignment. By becoming the kind of man whose life feels full, whose boundaries are clear, and whose presence is calm, you stop fearing interest fading because you know you will not fade with it. There is a moment when her interest doesn't just dip, it hesitates. This is when the most revealing test appears. She starts questioning the emotional tone of the relationship. Comments like "you've changed" or "things feel different lately" surface without clear examples. This isn't confusion, it's calibration. She's checking whether you become defensive, self-blaming, or emotionally reactive when the emotional temperature shifts. Many men hear these words and scramble to fix the feeling. They apologize for things they don't understand. They promise to be better without knowing what better means. In doing so, they give away their center. What she feels then is instability. A man who cannot stand on his own emotional ground cannot lead a shared emotional space. What she's actually observing is whether you can stay composed in ambiguity. A grounded response doesn't argue her feelings, but it doesn't collapse under them either. You acknowledge the change without over-owning it. You stay curious instead of frantic. Calm curiosity communicates strength far more than reassurance ever will. Another test emerges around emotional labor. She becomes less responsive when you're stressed or vulnerable. This is not cruelty, it's assessment. She's checking whether your emotional weight overwhelms her or whether you process it responsibly. Many men unload everything onto their partner, mistaking transparency for intimacy. What she feels is pressure, not closeness. Emotional strength isn't silence and it isn't dumping. It's discernment. You share, but you don't bleed. You process your emotions without making her the container for all of them. When you demonstrate that you can handle life's weight without outsourcing your stability, you become someone she can lean on rather than someone she has to manage. She also watches how you respond to her independence. When she asserts her needs, her time, her boundaries, does your respect remain intact, or do you subtly punish her with distance, moodiness, or guilt? Passive resentment is one of the fastest attraction killers there is. It signals emotional immaturity disguised as calm. A man who respects autonomy without withdrawing his warmth communicates emotional security. He doesn't keep score. He doesn't weaponize affection. He understands that closeness chosen freely is far more powerful than closeness negotiated through pressure. This stage often includes a test of patience. She slows things down, replies later, delays decisions. She's watching whether you rush her timeline to protect your ego or whether you can move at a pace that isn't dictated by fear. Men who push urgency reveal scarcity. Men who can wait without resentment reveal abundance. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you rush, you are telling her that your internal state depends on her response. When you can wait calmly, you are telling her that your life is stable regardless. Stability is attractive because it signals safety, not boredom. She also pays attention to how you speak about other women, past partners, female friends, strangers. Bitterness, contempt, or entitlement raise silent alarms. Respectful neutrality communicates emotional maturity. How you talk about women when you're not trying to impress her tells her exactly how you will treat her when attraction fades. At this point, many men start walking on eggshells. They censor themselves. They overthink every word. She feels it. And when a man becomes careful instead of confident, polarity collapses. Attraction requires tension. Not tension created by anxiety, but tension created by two whole individuals meeting. This test is about inner posture. Can you remain relaxed, expressive, and grounded while the connection feels uncertain? Can you enjoy moments without demanding permanence? Can you accept that attraction is fluid without trying to freeze it? Passing this test doesn't guarantee she stays. Nothing does. But failing it guarantees something worse. You lose respect for yourself. The men who emerge strongest are the ones who allow the truth of the moment without trying to manipulate it. They don't cling to what's slipping. They focus on who they are becoming. When you stay rooted while interest wavers, you send a powerful signal. You are not here to audition. You are here to connect authentically. And if that connection continues, it will be because both people choose it freely, not because one was afraid to let go. The final test is the one almost no one talks about because it doesn't feel like a test at all. It feels like distance settling in. Fewer emotional highs, fewer lows, just neutral ground. This is where many men mistake calm for safety or silence for peace. In reality, this is evaluation at its deepest level. She is watching who you are when there is nothing to react to. When a woman is truly losing interest, she stops provoking, she stops correcting, she stops demanding. Not because everything is fine, but because she's deciding whether this chapter is worth continuing. And in that stillness, your character becomes loud. She notices how you treat her when there's no tension to resolve. Are you present or merely there? Are you curious or complacent? Do you bring energy into shared space, or do you wait for her to provide it? Attraction dies fastest in emotional flatlines, not storms. Many men sensing this calm relax too much. They stop courting. Conversations. They stop being intentional. Comfort replaces consciousness. What she feels then is stagnation, and stagnation feels like emotional death. Desire needs movement, growth, a sense that life with you continues to expand. This is also where your relationship with solitude is tested. When you're alone, do you feel empty or fulfilled? Do you rush to fill space with distractions, or do you use it to deepen yourself? A man who cannot sit comfortably with himself will unconsciously demand that others rescue him from that discomfort. She senses this without words. If your presence feels like a request rather than an offering, attraction fades. If your presence feels full, grounded, and self-contained, it becomes magnetic again. Another detail she watches closely is how you handle disappointment, small letdowns, plans that don't work out, moments that don't go your way. Do you become passive aggressive? Do you withdraw warmth, or do you adapt with grace? Emotional resilience here speaks louder than any romantic gesture ever could. Resilience tells her that life with you won't feel like walking on emotional landmines. It tells her that you won't punish her for being human. Safety and desire are not opposites. They coexist when strength is paired with emotional regulation. At this stage, many men try one last push: big talks, grand gestures, emotional ultimatums. These rarely work because attraction doesn't respond to intensity when the foundation is misaligned. It responds to authenticity and alignment, to a man who knows who he is, where he's going, and who invites rather than convinces. Here is the truth you were never supposed to hear. The purpose of these tests is not for you to pass them for her. It's for you to pass them for yourself, to see whether you abandon your values when love feels uncertain, to see whether you trade dignity for closeness, to see whether you remain whole when connection is fragile, when you stop trying to manage her interest and start managing your inner state. Everything changes. Sometimes she leans back in. Sometimes she doesn't, but you walk away stronger. Either way, a man who understands this no longer fears losing interest because he knows that the version of him who stays grounded, purposeful, and self-respecting will always attract the right energy from the right people at the right time. And now I want to ask you something personal. Which of these tests do you recognize yourself struggling with the most right now? And what would change in your life if you handled it with calm instead of fear? Write your answer in the comments. If this spoke to you, like the video, subscribe for more truths you won't hear anywhere else, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it before it's too